What's going on, everybody? Eric Lindquist at Stokastic here on the Odd Shopper channel, coming to you with another edition of Liddy's Leans, Likes, and Locks NBA. Hit that like button, subscribe button, notification bell. Goes a long way for me on this video, goes a long way for you. That way you become a prize whenever great content is going live here at our little neck of the YouTube woods. Yeah, 2 games. I'm going to record here now before we get going with this Phoenix Golden State game. Obviously, some weird stuff there, having Bradley Beal ruled out after being told that he was going to be in the day before. NBA in mid-season form here early. That was a little bit wonky, but at least Devin Booker's playing basketball, so that's cool. This is also cool. Bet365, we'll talk about them a little bit later. If you guys are in the great states of Kentucky, Virginia, New Jersey, Ohio, Colorado, and Iowa. There we go. Always had to think about Iowa, the one I actually went to college at, Go State, but Brock Purdy. Wasn't a very nice outing, but it was against my team, so it's okay. Anyway, we're bouncing around here. We've got 12 games on today's NBA slate. I put in more hours than I would like to admit with the old Excel spreadsheet. Hopefully you enjoyed that over on Lindy's Locks Update, talking you through the process, the sites that I use to analyze the NBA, my favorite sport to be analyzing on a day in, day out basis. Everything changes a little bit, but there's still some really easily projectable information, and news is king. We're going to be paying attention to news. Again, Bradley Beal had no chance to be able to react to that one. Ended up getting a worse point. You could have closed at like 2.5. I would have been okay with that in this department. Obviously, the Lakers, they got it close there in the fourth quarter, but Jokic is back to being Jokic immediately. Maybe we all need to hang out with horses every single day. I think that's the moral of the story, is we'd all be happier and better at basketball if we just cared about horses. But we care about money here on this program. 12 games. We're going to go through the ins and outs of every single team, talk a little bit, and give you a prequel about everything. Obviously, yesterday we were able to go pretty in depth with all 4 of those. Today, I'm going to keep it a little bit more surface, focus in on a little bit from every single team on the board, and then give you my best play. Leans, likes, locks. If it's your first time joining, welcome. That's how we do things here. Locks, those are the ones you can take to the bank. Likes, take them or leave them. Leans, those are the things I'm thinking about betting. Haven't really fired it yet. So, without further ado, producer Jacob, holy cow, buckle up, grab your, I don't know, I have no joke. Let's get to the picks. Our tour begins in a pretty interesting spot here as you work through some of the rotations of what we can expect for Atlanta, for Charlotte. It's a lot of familiar faces. Now, Atlanta, I would call them a very thin team. You got Trae Young, you got DeJounte Murray, Clint Capella, been there forever. But then that trade for Saddiq Bey to go out and get some shooting there at the midway point. They don't have anything off the bench besides Okongwu, who can be a serviceable backup centerpiece, but like, you can say that about a lot of dudes in the NBA, and it just, the roster falls off an absolute cliff from here. Not a whole lot's expected, and yeah, they're 3.5-point favorites, though, on the road, because nothing whatsoever is expected of Charlotte. We expect pace, all about that pace. No treble, but LaMelo Ball only going to do so much. You've got a 10-day suspension, or 10-game suspension, for Miles Bridges still that he has to serve out. Probably should never play in the NBA again, but, you know, it is what it is. PJ Washington, friends, he's somebody that I do think mixes in nicely in this rotation, but there are a lot of Charlotte pieces that are starting this basketball game today that I do not think end up starting the basketball game here a little bit later. It's just, I mean, what are you going to even do here with this Charlotte team? They're going to be a headache. They're going to throw up points. They're going to just chuck it every single time out. You're looking at a 234, 235 total here for a reason, but at the end of the day, it's kind of a straightforward play. You look at 3.5s that exist across the industry, a couple of 4s, just get one of the 3.5s. I did small half unit play -110 over at FanDuel. That gets the card going. Again, I don't have a whole lot of analysis for either of these teams right now. Kind of predictable rotations. Don't think there's anything to mine out of the prop streets. Generally, you want to embrace some uncertainty here on the first major slate of the year, just in terms of what minutes are, because minutes are money. If we can project those, we're set. But again, straightforward play for me. Atlanta, the much better basketball team, which isn't saying a whole hell of a lot, because, well, I don't even think Trae Young wants to be there anyway. Now, this is a fascinating basketball game to talk about. The Washington Wizards taking on the Indiana Pacers. And it's not yours, not my grandparents' Indiana Pacers. These guys, they're not going to get down and dirty on defense. They are going to run. My God, look at this roster. It is so wild. Tyrese Halliburton, we know, shout out Iowa State, the alma mater, every single time. Got to feel good about that. But Tyrese Halliburton, he's been revelatory in the NBA rookie season in Sacramento. ends up being a piece that, again, Domantas Sabonis ended up fitting much better on the Sacramento Kings. He's actually projected second in my model in terms of win share, and he finished there last season, so I guess it's a little bit surprising to me. Just an offensive piece that Sacramento needed in a two-man game, and it's kind of a bummer because Halliburton in Sacramento, I think they loved him. How could you not like watching Halliburton play basketball and creating for so many guys? Miles Turner, stay healthy, one-time dealer, even though we've heard trade talks for years and years and years revolving around him. He's a big who shoots threes and plays awesome defense. Why wouldn't you have that on your team forever? But look at the rest of this roster. Buddy Hield, Benedict Mathurin. You get Bruce Brown from the Denver Nuggets, and they were fine, even though that bench definitely has holes, unless Reggie Jackson's going to play like whatever I watched tonight. That was frustrating. But hey, LeBron, under 1.5 threes. These are the reasons you want to watch Lindy's Leans, Likes, Locks, and then followed up with Lindy's Locks update, where gave you some good prop goodness in that early one. Suns off to a nice quick start here against Golden State. Hopefully that maintains as well. But back to the analysis here. How about this Washington team with Jordan Poole, Kyle Kuzma, Denny Avdia getting paid? Interesting stuff across the board here. I do kind of have some interest. I almost put on the card Daniel Gafford here for a double-double. He only averaged 5.5 rebounds last season, but you look at the center situation, they're not going to be putting Kuzma out there at the 5. You get Tyus Jones into the mix. That's a smaller guy on the floor. Again, they've been rotating with Goodwin and these other pieces for years too, so it's not all that surprising, but not really sure that Danilo Gallinari is going to be playing crazy minutes here on this Washington team. I guess that's one guy that could create some shorting opportunities, but Jordan Poole. What are we going to do with Jordan Poole when it comes to this basketball team? I don't see any numbers that I wanted to really look and get involved with. The guy goes 1 for 15 in his last preseason game. We know defensively all the incompetence that Draymond Green sent him out on a rail because of. Just can't have him on a contender, but you can have him in Washington. Enjoy chucking, sir. He's going to put up some big, gaudy games from time to time, but a large range of outcomes on a day in, day out basis for a guy who, again, the usage is all going to be going towards him and Kuzma. But let's talk about the Pacers one more time as we round this one out, because I had a lot more to say about this than Atlanta and Charlotte, obviously. I like shorting Benedict Mathurin here. Bruce Brown, I'm assuming that they want to have him in some kind of a sixth bench role, which is exactly what ended up being fantastic for him in Denver. He was the main catalyst. Of course, he had to start him over Michael Porter Jr. in some of those spots, but they didn't do it, and they won an NBA title anyway. Defense matters there, people, but Benedict Mathurin, as good as he looked out of the gate last season, he's not going to be playing the 37, 38, 39 minutes out of the gate here, and yet you got Tyrese Halliburton. You have a healthy Miles Turner at the moment. You got Buddy Hield, who likes to chuck it. You know that. I know that. Everybody knows that. Nesmith off the bench. Of course, Obi Toppin probably slides into the starting rotation here. That's some production going to other pieces, and yet I see 22.5 as the number posted for his PRA, that being points plus rebounds plus assists. Minus 120 over at DraftKings Sportsbook. Friends, that's another play that's on the card. I like it. There are a lot of props. There are a lot of outrights, a lot of pieces for a little bit for everybody here. A little bit for everybody here on what I consider the true opening night, because we got choices here on 12 games. And, well, I think shorting Benedict Mathurin, as much as I like the young kid, sophomore season for him here in the NBA out of Arizona, don't know how much production we're going to be relying on him on an in-out basis. I've got him a lot lower than 22.5. What the fuck is this line? We're talking the Boston Celtics with this absurd, and I do mean absolutely absurd, ridiculous, I don't even have words for it, kind of a roster that we're going to be looking at on a day in, day out basis and just salivating. And if anybody watched that preseason, my God, Kristaps Porzingis added to the 5 for this basketball team as a stretch shooter. Drew Holiday, what an upgrade over Marcus Smart, in my opinion. There's not a Boston Celtics fan. Drew Holiday could have a terrible career in Boston, and you can't even be mad at him because he's not Marcus Smart. And they're just so happy to be rid of him. Oh, producer Jacob, of course. Boston Celtics stan. He's nodding his head like Jack Nicholson gif. A little bit of that. Yeah, Marcus Smart, gone in Memphis. Walking in Memphis. And by walking, I mean like, we'll talk about him later. But anyway, the Boston Celtics, friends, this is just a juggernaut situation. Went through their last preseason game there on the 19th. Thought there were a couple of interesting things. Derek White, going to continue to start here, but pretty much locked in 23 minutes. You have Derek White, Tatum, Brown, Porzingis, Holiday. I expect that to be the rotation there. What gets curious is when you're looking at bench pieces, and sometimes we'll get some early numbers on guys, and I think it's very in flux. They are very, very reliant on their starters, like a couple of teams in the NBA. I'm looking at you, Denver, but you got O'Shea Brissett, Svi Mikhailuk, Peyton Pritchard going to have to play a lot of minutes here, and now Neemias Queta ends up being into the roster, basically somebody who's going to have to be relied on to some extent. Sam Hauser can provide a little bit of shooting, but going through Boston, it's going to be a lot of minutes for these big five guys. If Kristaps Porzingis stays healthy, this is going to be a very fun basketball team to back and watch. You know who's not? The New York Knicks. We're looking at a disparity. Again, I just want to talk to you about the Garden opening night. I understand that it's going to be rocking, and the Knicks coming off of a season that I would call a decent victory based on expectations. Now, you still have Thibodeau doing Thibodeau things, and you had Julius Randle really run into a brick wall at the end of last season, and I am a very noted Jalen Brunson stan. I am not an RJ Barrett stan, and I don't know what to make of this roster on the Knicks side, because it's still the same thing. Emmanuel Quickley didn't get his rookie fourth-year option picked up. You got RJ Barrett going to have to play massive minutes again. Josh Hart was revelatory, one of the main catalysts on that crazy run in the second half of last year's NBA season. And you work through some of these efficiency numbers back from 2023. He was a massive catalyst here. You work through some of the pace numbers for them. They just became a lot more efficient basketball team once he became a part of it. But I don't think Julius Randle has any chance of being the same player that we saw for the first year and a half of his tenure in New York. And that, my friends, is a massive problem because Jalen Brunson is going to have to do so much for this basketball team. Whereas Boston on the other side, if it's not Tatum, it's Brown. If it's not Brown, it's Porzingis. If it's not Porzingis, it's Holiday. We literally have a core four in Boston that is mind-numbing to think about. And we can get them at minus 162 as a parlay piece that you can add to any other play on the board. It's a lock. There's no way that I am not I'm not going to balk at it. Plus 400 to make the finals. And then we've got the Knicks at 50-1. And yet this spread is this close. I get it. You get into the bench unit. Emmanuel Quickley can be serviceable as well. Yada, yada, yada. I get it. Boston is so damn enticing here. So going to be backing them, making them a parlay piece on just about anything that I've got some decisions to make up, but I've already laid the 162 there. Feeling good about it. You should too. Just want to clarify for the people, the odds above you, yes, we are talking to win the NBA Finals before I said a little, whatever. 400-1, 400-1. As much as I'm going to enjoy watching these two on League Pass, shout out DraftKings, got hooked up with a little League Pass. Yeah, Dynasty rewards. It's about time, people. But anyway, the Houston Rockets, Orlando Magic, I can't wait to watch them play. They're going to be projects. There are some projects, and it's a little bit interesting to see Fred VanVleet go take the bag from Houston, and Houston offering up the bag, quite frankly. But here we are, Alperen Şengün. If you've watched my program in the past, you know I find him to be one of the more enticing, enjoyable big men to watch play the offensive center position. Defense, we could have a conversation about how to improve that from time to time. Slide to the left, slide to the right. Crisscross. Yeah, do a little wedding dancing or something, Alperen. We can work on it. Jalen Green, Jabari Smith Jr. looked awesome in the preseason. If anybody was watching those, again, always watching, always watching. Look at the baby, look at the baby. Shout out old school. Nobody quotes that anymore. But Houston, going to be a roster that has a lot of really enticing pieces. Didn't even talk about Amin Thompson, but like telling you, it's going to be an enjoyable basketball team to watch develop, but they're not going to be very good. Let's be dead serious about that. In fact, on the other side of this one, Orlando, a lot of the same issues for me. Paolo Banchero, year two, going to be an enjoyable situation. Markelle Fultz taking steps up after losing time in Philly with the shoulder and coming back and kind of putting himself together again like Humpty Dumpty or something. You got Cole Anthony. He will not be a part of this team for very much longer, I would assume, but yet they decided to give him 3 years, $39 million. So here we are, friends. He'll be on the roster alongside Jalen Suggs, who's not. what were they doing with that pick? I know they picked up his 4th-year option. Whereas, again, Emmanuel Quickly, that was kind of a surprising one to me, but I guess there are some shooting efficiency numbers that we will cover quite in depth. But as you look through both of these teams, I see nothing that is all that enjoyable about this. This is a pretty efficient number. Pretty efficient. All of this is efficient. They're not going to be good teams. Going to be enjoyable, but that's about all I can say about that. We don't have any interest in backing anything at these current numbers. If you maybe do something, Houston +4, but I literally looked at props for this game for like 20 minutes. Bang my head against a wall. You want to get funky? Oh boy. Let's get funky. This is a weird one. Cleveland, Brooklyn, identical in terms of, minus 115. You can leave or take the point here. I'm not going to be backing anything in that regard. But let's go through these rosters because Cleveland is definitely one that the early first round exit, a little bit jarring. You do have injury situation to pay attention to with Darius Garland, and that's the reason we have no props on the Cleveland side. Just that's somebody who matters. You got Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley, Jared Allen already confirmed out for this one, so you're going to get more minutes of Mobley. You're going to get kind of an interesting, maybe some Tristan Thompson in our life. That'll be fun to watch, right? George Niang now there. Complimentary bench piece. Weird one to see on there. Max Strus, complimentary piece. Weird to see him there. But hey, Cleveland, they're going to do what they always do. Try to get by on crazy offensive efficiency. Let Donovan Mitchell run that side of the floor and then lock it down. In fact, they had the 2nd highest adjusted net rating over at Dunks and Threes last season. Rode them to the promised land in a couple of really prime spots, but we know they are going to slow things down. 30th in the NBA in total pace over the course of the 2022-2023 season. It's going to be boring slugfest with Donovan Mitchell chucking. Goody. Max Strus will provide some shooting. By the way, 10.5 seemed like a low number on him just to throw it out on the prop street, but didn't fire that up because you can't bet everything on the board. I am thinking about the weirdest stuff on the Brooklyn side because I don't know how this is going to pan out with Mikal Bridges, Spencer Dinwiddie sharing the basketball. And the main reason is because there's another guy that they have to share the basketball now with this season. His name's Ben Simmons, and he has the largest range of outcomes of just about any player in the NBA for what we can expect. I don't expect a crazy amount of minutes for him here early. I don't. Even last season, we saw him relegated to a bench role to limit his injury status. And then, I don't know whether it was mental, whether it was anything else. I don't know. But all I know is that his rebound rates and his assist rates break my model if you put him in for 28 minutes. That seems like asking a lot for a guy who his high in minutes last season. We did see some mid-30s from him, but I don't think that's going to necessarily be his role on this team. You don't know what to expect of him, but I can tell you one thing. I think points are the things I'm the most worried about him achieving if you're going to play him for 26 to 28 minutes tomorrow in terms of trying to go out and get a triple-double. He is plus 3,200 at FanDuel Sportsbook to triple-double. Now, I haven't bet it yet. I am strongly considering just putting like $20 on it and moving along with my life just so that I feel good, so I can feel something if it happens. But it is insane to see that kind of on a number on a guy who averaged 6.9 points per game, but 6.3 rebounds, 6.1 assists last season, in a much smaller minutes allotment than what we could expect going forward. Again, 26.2 minutes per game last season. If he's healthy, we saw him play 23 minutes in that last preseason game on the 19th. Think he can sprinkle something. This doesn't even have to be a half unit play like a standard leg type of deal. I'm putting a lead next to it. But that is a huge number for a guy who fills up a box score in a multitude of ways, but more than likely we'll go 0 for 3, we'll miss every free throw, and we will be broken and dead inside. So, hey, keep it light, keep it tight. Ben Simmons triple-double. It's a weird one. Off we go, and we have to, first of all, pour out one for my homie. You know who it is if you watch Lindy's Leans, Likes, and Locks last season. Bojan Bogdanovic will not be appearing for the next 4+ weeks. It is sad times in the streets. The points prop king himself. Man, those are good times. Anyway, this team is a cluster, you know what now. Cade Cunningham comes back. Jaden Ivey going to be playing alongside of him there. You get one of the Thompson twins, the other Thompson twin. I'm very much looking forward to him. God, the rest of this roster is a little bit brutal, though. I'll leave out the one guy that we are going to be taking a little sprinkle on, though, here because, well, it's more than a sprinkle. I'll just put it that way. I'm going to save it for another second. But on the Miami side, what happens when you have the Miami Heat? You just know it's going to be slow. You know it's going to be boring. And now an interesting Thomas Bryant addition. What are we doing here? What are we doing here? Backing up Bam Adebayo. I think I kind of like him in that role, like what we saw in Washington and other places, Los Angeles, where he can come out and be effective for you for 14, 16 minutes, but that's about it. You now have Caleb Martin, almost said Cody. Caleb Martin going to be sprung into a little bit more of an enhanced role in the absence of a Max Strus, in the absence of a Gabe Vincent, and you still have to figure out how Jaime Jaquez, who looked pretty damn good during the preseason, is going to fit into this basketball team. A young rookie, sometimes they hit, sometimes they don't, but the big question mark I know everybody's thinking about, it's not Butler, it's not Adebayo, it's still their team. What is Tyler Hero's future here in Miami, and what are we going to be seeing from him from a usage perspective? Not even concerned about anything besides what are we going to see from usage, because he's going to want to get his shots up. And that's really the only reason he has any utility in the NBA in the first place. But nobody wanted him. Portland had nothing that they wanted to do with him. I think they got the max comeback for what it's worth. But I'm definitely going to be on the side of like, I would rather not have Tyler Hero on my basketball team on that contract. I don't know. It's just my opinion. But speaking of bad contracts and speaking of insane decisions, how about the Pistons at the center position over the course of the last however many years? Why is James Wiseman on this team? Why is Marvin Bagley on this team? You're trying to enhance your roster and build from a young core and then have shooting surround him like Bogdanovich. And, well, Sadiq Bey would have looked pretty good alongside you too. But I get you have to have some plans in the future because Cade Cunningham, you're invested. Jaden Ivey, you're invested. That's going to be kind of your centerpiece at the guard positions. And, you know, not a lot of money going to Sadiq Bey in those kind of circumstances at the three. But Jalen Duren, he's going to be the starting center here for the Detroit Pistons. He started the last preseason game coming off of an ankle sprain, and he played a pretty healthy amount of minutes. We're talking 24 minutes, I believe, in that last preseason effort that he had. And I worked through a lot of these rotations. Again, the last preseason games, most of them are dress rehearsals unless there's an industry waiting in the wings. So 21 minutes was all that we had in that final preseason from Jalen Duren before playing a little bit more, but looked pretty good. Going up against a Thunder team that has a decent front court, has a lot of size. Oh my God, Oklahoma City. They're going to be so fun to watch too. Can't wait to break them down. But as I'm predicting out this rotation, I got to think that James Wiseman is an afterthought. We saw him play all of like 6 minutes, 3 minutes in the first half of that last preseason game. I got to think he's going to be the guy who ends up getting cast away. Marvin Bagley's already been paid inexplicably by this basketball team. This is going to be a spot where I think a double-double at plus 250 for Jalen Duren is outrageous. Outrageous. I'm predicting him for 28 minutes. Last season, we're talking about a dude who was putting up crazy 18, 14 rebound opportunities when he was seeing 30-plus minutes. He was getting the lion's share. He only averaged 25.1 minutes per game last season, but was getting 9 rebounds per game. Yeah, this is a gnarly matchup. This will be a slow-paced matchup with very few rebounds up for grabs, considering Miami in terms of pace, 29th in the NBA at 96.3 possessions per 48 minutes. But I'm getting 2.5 to 1 on the starting center of the Detroit Pistons with nobody else interested in rebounding to double-double. Stop it. Jalen Duren, lock it up. I think this is a value piece. Again, there are value locks. There are also your like locks where it's like, yeah, take Boston and run with it. But I think this number is ridiculous on a guy I expect to play a lot in the first game here for Detroit. Attention to everybody. If you're enjoying the basketball content, the MLB content, the NFL content here on Lindy's Leans, Likes, and Locks, first of all, smash that like button. But second of all, if you're in one of these 6 states, Take advantage of these incredible opportunities when they pop up throughout the NBA season. Now, it's Bet365 right now. It might be other sites in other states that have these advantageous promos coming up later, but one of these 6 states, if you're living there right now, why wouldn't you bet $5 and get 150 in bonus bets? That being Colorado, Iowa, Virginia, Kentucky, Ohio, and New Jersey, friends. Yes, Colorado, Iowa, Ohio, New Jersey, Kentucky, Virginia. Look, I can do different orders too. Look at me go. But also, bet 5, get 150 in bonus bets. That's ridiculous. I also was told in Kentucky, it's still bet $1, get 365 in bonus bets. If you're in Kentucky, first of all, go Wildcats. I won't tell you who I cheered for growing up. But anyway, bet $5, get 150 in bonus bets. Good stuff for you down there in the Wildcat state. Is that what it is? No, it's got to be something with horse racing. I don't know. You have a lot of pretty flowers and fun outfits for the Kentucky Derby. But great state, great stuff. Take advantage of that if you're in one of those 6 states. Only if you're 21 and over, 18 and over in Kentucky. And if you have a gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. Back to the picks we go. Oh, God. My Minnesota Timberwolves taking on the Toronto Raptors. And hey, at least our complexion going forward, I think, is a little bit better than Toronto's. A little bit confused by what they're doing. Firing Nick Nurse. Wow. Well, best of luck to you here. You're going to have an interesting time here with this roster. No Fred VanVleet, who offensively had obviously provided a lot. Defensively actually provided a little bit here as well. But it's Pascal Siakam's team. And then Scotty Barnes has to continue ascending the totem pole. Jakob Poeltl back into the mix here for Toronto after they traded for him from San Antonio. That was a very unlikely trade back, in my opinion, but it is what it is. OG Anunoby defensively provides so much for you. Gary Trent, Dennis Schroeder now going to be a piece of this rotation going forward as well. Probably going to be your starting point guard. We'll see. There's a lot of ways and configurations where you can have Scotty Barnes play the point, and they've done that a lot. Anywho, the Minnesota side, that is going to be depressing to me all season long, knowing that Rudy Gobert could have been Walker Kessler, which is basically the same guy, only younger. Great. But we have the older guy who's getting paid infinity dollars, who, you know, the Stifle Tower. Woo. But Rudy Gobert, Mike Conley, nice to bring his friend along for the ride here at the trade deadline. And now Anthony Edwards looked awesome at FIBA. The USA loses FIBA, so we're not going to talk about it. We had Karl Anthony Towns still somehow hasn't gotten traded. We paid Naz Reid, even though Naz Reid, how do we find more time for him instead of that Rudy Gobert fellow? I don't know. Everybody wanted Naz Reid at the deadline, and we had no intentions of giving him up. Thank the frickin' Lord. Nickeil Alexander-Walker going to have to play minutes in this rotation too. Shake Milton maybe playing minutes in this rotation. Going to be a weird spot for some of those ancillary pieces in Minnesota. I don't think we need to be worried about that right now. I'm a little bit worried about why books have this number, though, hung up for OG Anunoby. 2.5 threes. I feel like I'm missing something here. This is probably going to turn into a like by tomorrow, but as I was running through it, he shot a lot better than I remember. 38.5% from 3 last season. It's much better for a defensively forward guy, but averaged 16.7 per game in 35.4 minutes per game in 2022-23. So maybe there's a little bit of a glimmer here, but as it projected out for me, under 2.5 threes. I mean, this seemed like a lock and load type play when I first looked at it. Spreadsheet liked it and then identified it, but again, I think there's enough other plays on a 12-game slate. We don't have to go this thin and force in something that's minus 145 that's just like an okay play, like would be a like play on a lot of other slates. So take this one or leave this one. I've left it for now. OG Anunoby, under 2.5 threes. Yeah, no Fred VanVleet creating might be a problem there in Toronto. This is another take it or leave it spot. This one is probably going to stay off of my card, but God, I want to pull the trigger. The Oklahoma City Thunder taking on the Chicago Bulls. Hi, Dad. It's my dad's name. But anyway, Chicago Bulls, there we are. One of my favorite stories as a kid was when I was like 7 or 8. Michael Jordan ends up coming back to the NBA, and my dad used his Christmas bonus to buy us tickets. 2 tickets to the very top of the roof at the United Center. We drove to Chicago, 12 hours from Sioux Falls. We got to see Michael Jordan in like his 2nd or 3rd game back. It was absolutely insane. I think he got dinged up at one point in time. But anyway, they played the Indiana Pacers. One of the coolest memories ever. I always think about that when I see the Bulls over there. And I don't think I've ever told that story in 2 years of doing this. I probably could have told it better and gotten the exact date of when I went, but you know what? Fuck it. Oklahoma City on the other side, friends. Yeah, we'll talk about them in a second, but the Bulls, we're definitely looking at this team as just biding their time with enough pieces. Zach LaVine's still there. You've got Vooch still there. DeRozan's still there. They're like the poor man's big three. There's a lot of other big threes you would prefer to have. A lot of inefficiency. Defensively, you're getting nothing out of Vooch ever. You're getting rebounding, and then you got to expect him to be on the decline here. Andre Drummond's still backing it up. Caruso's still out there playing a bunch of really good defense and doing stuff like that. They picked up Javon Carter for God knows what reason. Torrey Craig's on this roster. A really weird one to be looking at here from the onset. Tried to put minutes in for some of these bench pieces. Not a lot of bench pieces to like. Patrick Williams is probably going to be playing 28, 30 minutes a night, don't you think? That's what I think. But my God. How excited are you? Are you as excited as I am to watch the Oklahoma City Thunder? I'm pretty excited to watch the Oklahoma City Thunder this season. Chet Holmgren, the only guy who has any chance, I believe, well, Scoot Henderson is fantastic, but Chet Holmgren had an awesome preseason in very limited minutes. They're taking their time with him here, and I was entertaining some interesting plays there. I will say, I don't know if his rebound rate is going to be as low as what it was through the preseason spots, like 3-4 rebounds in a number of those games, but 15, 16 minutes. I put him up to 30 minutes. I think that's a little bit high. I might have to back off a tiny bit simply because they have enough pieces that they can rotate in. You have Pokashevsky, who's off the injury report, who can play multiple positions. They can go some small ball with him up there at the 5. Jalen Williams can drop, who is such a good two-way player. You get the Dort piece that you know is going to be playing defense. You love it. Josh Giddey can get giddy with it. But then SGA, everybody knows and loves him as well. But Chet Holmgren, that's the guy that everybody's excited. I'm excited to watch here on opening night. I just think these are pretty efficient numbers, unless I want to pull the trigger on Chet Holmgren to potentially double-double. Some weird plus 250s around for him, too. We already fired the Durant piece. And again, I think Chet Holmgren is going to be exponentially better at the actual game of basketball. But when you're projecting out minutes, trying to figure out where they're going to go, even though there's multiple bigs there in Detroit, I don't expect them to necessarily utilize them. Chet Holmgren, there aren't a lot of bigs here anymore. You used to have a rotating door of these Jeremiah Robinson Earl type characters in Oklahoma City. I don't see them on this roster. So maybe Chet Holmgren, maybe I am right to be projecting him there for a little bit higher minutes allotment. I know Casson Wallace has to have some minutes kind of carved out for him. Ousmane Dieng, he's going to be in there a little bit too, but yeah, just can't wait to watch Chet. Anyway, plus 100 money line. I'm going to lean it there with Oklahoma City, just a team that I'm so excited for, so giddy for, if you will. Speaking of things to be excited for, which is a lot of what this program is today, as we're starting to incorporate data, the New Orleans Pelicans getting Zion Williamson back into the mix, going up against the Memphis Grizzlies, who will not have John Morant for a hot second because, well, you know. Anyway, the New Orleans Pelicans, Zion Williamson looked in shape, looked excited to play basketball, and looked excited to be on the New Orleans Pelicans again, maybe because he's getting paid a crazy amount of money to play a kid's game. Just an idea, but Zion Williamson, we all know what he can be at his ceiling. Can he maintain it? Can he stay away from injuries and jumbo? Those are good things. A little bit of gumbo. Why did I say jumbo? It's not even real. Anyway, he looked fit. Thick boy. I like him. Not like that. Never mind me. Shit. Let's keep it in. Screw it, producer Jacob. Anyway, we got the Pelicans with Ingram. We know that it's another year with McCollum and Valanciunas. Herbert Jones. Herbert Jones. Very fun to watch him out there as well. Not really a great young nucleus, though, that we're looking at here. I was projecting out rotations for New Orleans. Not really finding any props when I put Valanciunas in for 24 minutes. Larry Nance, he ends up being kind of like in a time split. Dyson Daniels can be a shooter off the bench. Like, is that really what you want? Kira Lewis going to be playing some backup there. Jordan Hawkins dance in my khaki dance. Anyway, the Memphis Grizzlies, Marcus Smart. That is your starting point guard now for them. And that is not Tyus Jones. And it's really weird to look at on a piece of paper because we're used to Tyus Jones with no John Morant being the guy, and he's in Washington. I don't know why. But Marcus Smart, God, These are some ridiculous numbers, I think. I don't know who creates offense on this team besides, well, some form of him, even if it's not good offense. And then Desmond Bane. Zaire Williams is going to have to play a lot more minutes than I think people are projecting him for. I've got him around 28, 30 minutes. That's a lot for a guy who wasn't really a rotation piece at all at times last season. So Luke Kennard off the bench, they went out and got him. One of the better shooters in the NBA. Can't play defense. That's tough. David Roddy and Derrick Rose. I'm kind of secretly excited to see what we get out of Derrick Rose. Can he push for extra minutes here? He's going to be one of those extremely volatile dudes where you're going to either see him out of the rotation instantly or he's in really good shape and stays healthy and plays himself into some extra minutes. So again, Memphis, I'm really not a big fan of this roster at the moment outside of Desmond Bane. And then Jaren Jackson Jr., he can play defense, and he's lovely to watch be an insane person. He's a little bit of an insane person, but they're going to be sitting around waiting, wishing for Ja Morant, and I think these are some of the worst title odds of anything that exists in the entire NBA, just throwing it out there. I'm not as enamored with them whatsoever. Oh, with that being said, Marcus Smart. Why is 25.5 the number here on his PRA? I understand that it's a change of scenery, but he used to be, he was like option number infinity. It felt like at times, even though he wanted to chuck the ball every single day. Enjoy it, Marcus Smart. Yeah, again, producer Jacob nodding his head correctly here. I think 25.5 is a pretty large number to be looking at here. This is a half unit kind of play. This was one of the first ones I ended up pulling the trigger on this slate earlier this afternoon as I was looking through numbers. And 25.5, I think this is I'm not. Ja Morant needs to get back fast for Memphis. And you need to jump fast over to OddsShopper, oddshopper.com. Down in the video description box below, my friends, we've got a great promo going on right now where you can try out a weekly or a monthly package for just 50% off. 50% off, that's a phenomenal deal. Slam Dunk 50 is the promo code at the top right there. You want to use the tools, the content that I use every single day through my process to mine through the best positive EV bets, to be able to shop for the best lines at whatever sportsbook is available in your state. So many customizable options, so many ways to use the tools to find the best bets on the board day in, day out. You wouldn't even need me in some capacity. Again, I'm taking a lot of my plays utilizing a market-based approach that OddsShopper provides. I have my projections I put together. Again, it's a combination deal. And I'm going to be teaching you over on Lindy's Locks update over on X. Go follow me there at Eric Lindquist, talking you through my process, how I put some of that together. And OddsShopper, they are not just the beginning piece, but they are the final piece every single time. I can identify some of the best bets. I can research them on my own. And then I can pull the trigger at the best number at whatever book is available in your state. So take advantage of this Slam Dunk 50, 50% off right now with that code. Alrighty, y'all, back to the picks. If I didn't already have two locks on the card, now one of them, again, just to recap, Boston money line, minus 162. I expect that line to move by tomorrow. I would be shocked if it didn't. I'd say this knowing full well that whatever. Jalen Duren, that's a value piece, plus 250. Some of you are going to be like, oh my God, a lock. I just want the easy things to put together in a parlay. Plus 250 is a phenomenal number to get on a guy that I project for a lot more minutes than the industry standard at the moment. Again, there is some volatility to it, but Jalen Duren, I put him in for a lot of minutes. 28 on the low side, 31 could be closer to what you get there. Again, Marvin Bagley going to be playing the backup there. James Wiseman, it didn't work out. It just didn't work out. And now you got a guy now in Williams. Anyway, we're not talking about Detroit. We're not talking about anything there. We're talking about the lock play, the third lock play that will be in the next game. But here, this was going to be a fourth play. This is like your little plus money, little sprinkle. The Sacramento Kings going up against the Utah Jazz. And I'll start on the Sacramento side. I don't have a play from it, but you probably know from last year's video, Domantas Sabonis triple doubles when we started racking those up at plus 750, plus 850, plus 950 early on. We were early to, then his double odds were like minus 800 at the end of the season, and triple double numbers got a little bit wonky. Again, the assists were kind of hit and miss at times, but again, we were getting phenomenal value backing Sabonis, who really fit in way better on this team than what I ever expected. De'Aaron Fox, he's that dude, that Golden State series. We all watched it. I wish he didn't get dinged up because I think they could have really pushed Golden State in that final game 7 that ended up going Golden State's way pretty handily, and pretty much because of De'Aaron Fox hurt. So there's that. Kevin Huerter, good piece to have. Leaves Atlanta, gets out of purgatory there. Great shooter to have. Keegan Murray, Iowa's own. Going to be somebody that I think has very volatile minutes. It's all based about how he's shooting. We saw that in the postseason. Malik Monk can be a spark plug. He's one of those dudes. And you get an interesting piece in Colby Jones as well. Not sure what his complexion is going to be here with this basketball team, but hey, just another young piece to have along for the ride. I think they'll carve out some more minutes for him. Chris Duarte, quack, quack for the Ducks, for the people in the back. I don't know. Colby Jones probably not going to be cracking the rotation more than likely, but at least want to just throw it out there that they have some guys. Alexander, let me just get this name right too. Vezenkov? There we are. He's going to play. He might be okay. I don't know. I can't tell. I can just tell you, De'Aaron Fox is going to play with the ball in his hand. Domantas Sabonis is going to be at the free throw line and making plays for people and creating and rebound a lot. Rebound rate through the roof. Pace through the roof. Well, not through the roof. They were only 11th in pace last season, which is a little bit surprising to me, but first in adjusted offensive rating, 119 points scored per 100 possessions, and that's adjusted to the strength of schedule. So a good job from Sacramento putting together a nucleus that I think offensively is going to provide some things. But with pace and with guys playing at the rim, come a lot of block opportunities, and there's one guy on Utah. I'll cover the rest of the team before we get to the guy that I'm, of course, talking about. Lots of guys that I think are enticing. The guy I think everybody's excited to watch is Keontae George off of this team. This dude can play some absolute basketball. Like, he might be really, really good. Summer League, darling. Yeah. Chris Dunn. No, thank you. Jordan Clarkson. No, thank you. John Collins, what are we doing here? Kelly Olynyk, going to always provide offense off the bench. And of course, this is King Laurie's team at this point. One of the better ascents, if you will, after an incredible Chicago career, goes to Cleveland, gets cast away, just to make sure that they got Donovan Mitchell. That seemed like an important thing for them at the time, but we'll say Lauri Markkanen starting to show out, and I think he'd be a better fit, but that's just me. They have enough bigs. Jared Allen, Evan Mobley. Cleveland's going to be just fine. I don't know, probably another first-round exit, though. I'm looking at Walker Kessler, of course. That's the guy that I omitted. This dude is going to block everything. Duke, didn't really work out for him there. Auburn blocked absolutely everything in the SEC. And then last season, what are we even looking at here? 2.3 blocks per game. Facing a Sacramento team that's in the top half of pace from 2022-2023 with a very eerily similar roster construction. One of those teams that's very much intact to what they had last season. Have a couple of mixed pieces there, but almost all in the second unit. Same nucleus, same core. So I'm going to project them out nearly the same. And that provides a lot of Walker Kessler block opportunities. I really like plus 126 on this prop. There were times I was playing him at 3, which is insane to say out loud. Anthony Davis, we had a lot of block type props and stuff in the postseason for him too, and those are the last couple on my sheet. But Walker Kessler, one of the only guys that we rode pretty heavily on in the block department last year. This is a little bit above his average. That's why you're looking at the plus money, but I think the matchup's a lot better than what is shown on paper here. 4 blocks specifically. Kessler gets at least 3 against Sacramento here. We got 2 games to go, friends. Hit that like button, subscribe button, notification bell. We're here for a marathon. I'm putting in that work, Devin. Don't give up. DJ Khaled and the toothbrush. It's a great commercial. Geico does good commercials. San Antonio did great tanking work last season. I will say that much. Holy mother of God. Victor Wembanyama. I don't even know really what to say. I will start with this. Dallas, I expect them to be a lot better than it would seem the public does right now. 22-1, it's pretty short, but you look anything online, you read anything. Oh, are Luka and Kyrie going to figure it out? Yeah, Kyrie is one of the best guards that we've had in the last 15, 20 years in the NBA. Truly a revelatory basketball player. And you ask anybody in the NBA about handles or about basketball IQ or things of that nature, Kyrie Irving, as much of a Looney Tune as he can be from time to time, he certainly has that gear to him. You give the offseason to him and Luka Doncic to figure it out. Luka Doncic, we know, is not coming in overweight this season. Not doing that coming off of FIBA. Looked phenomenal doing so. You have to when you're playing for Slovenia and you have nobody else on your team. So a bunch of dudes who just shoot and play defense and watch Luka dribble. Kind of sounds like what Dallas is going to do to a certain capacity. But you go through the roster specifically on the Dallas side. Josh Green gets paid 30 minutes, probably 32 minutes for him. Grant Williams ends up being there. I think the center rotation is very much in flux, and how Tim Hardaway Jr. plays off the bench, assuming he's coming off the bench, I assume he's coming off the bench. That's going to be something that I'm paying attention to, because you want to be early to the prop markets when you start developing a sense of who is going to fit on for the complexion of this team. I would be surprised if Tim Hardaway Jr. was still with them come the end of this season. I think they want to turn that piece into something at the center position, because Derek Lively, the second, that's probably your starting center. You got a questionable Dwight Powell. You have Maxi Kleber, who has been 3-and-D forever. Can't jump higher than you or me. That's going to be fun to watch. But as much as Dallas has the name recognition with Luka and Kyrie, all eyes are on Victor Wembanyama for this. And you have Jeremy Sohan, who's going to be playing point for this basketball team. This is one of the tallest, most ridiculous starting fives in basketball, and it is appointment viewing every single time on the old League Pass. You want to know what I'm going to be doing on this damn iPad all season? I'm going to be watching Victor Wembanyama every second that I possibly can, because he is 7'5", playing around a bunch of other tall dudes, dribbling, shooting threes, the most touted prospect since LeBron James. Don't think it's remotely close. In fact, it's going to be electric to watch. Now, what do those minutes look like? I don't know if people are projecting him for enough in this first game. In Dallas, we know they like to slow it down with Luka. That is a big MO of what they've always done. 96.9 possessions per 48 minutes. So you got to take the baseline on players down just a little bit. But if you put Victor Wembanyama in for 30 minutes and you're talking 25.5 as his PRA, what? This is a big miss, I think, by the books. And maybe they are just giving us a little bit of a low-hanging carrot, or maybe something ridiculous where he just doesn't shoot well in that debut that he had in Summer League, where it was like, oh, and then he bounces back, plays the second game, and it's like, nope, shut it down. Can't let him do that again because he's the second coming. He's 7'5" and shoots threes. He creates off the dribble. He does everything that a guy who is a foot shorter than him, it would be a stretch to ask them to do in the National Basketball Association. So, like, run to the window. 25.5, minus 125. There's 26.5s sitting at a little bit lower juice if you're so inclined. This is just a nuke. This guy is the favorite to win Rookie of the Year. He's like minus 145 right now. It's shifted so heavily leading up to it, because why wouldn't it? He is going to be outrageous. The only thing that concerns me in the slightest for this projection is that Dallas pace metric. It is also, maybe teams get really physical. These are impossible things to think about in 2023. This number is just flat out wrong. Over 26.5. I have him for 33. And again, I understand that there's a larger range of outcomes for a rookie and you can't go completely nuts, but like, it's my favorite play on the board. Favorite play on the board. We've reached the end of our boarding walk. Oh my gosh. Sticking the landing. If you're still hanging out with me, again, thank you so much. I won't do any of the pleasantries. Let's get through this thing. Portland, Los Angeles, last game of the night. We know we're getting with the Clippers if they're healthy. Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Ivica Zubac, one of my dudes. Zoo, crank that soul. What? Yeah, Bones Highland, his questionable status actually matters a little bit in the complexion of this team, because Marcus Morris Sr. probably going to end up getting the starting nod. He's available, ready to go. He had a groin injury during a lot of the preseason, but sounds like he's good to go. I assume they just go Westbrook, George, Leonard, Marcus Morris. Again, enough familiarity with the team. Don't think it means that you need to go out of your way to like back any props there. I doubt they're going to be any available until way later in the day, but we shall find out. We shall find out. Again, when you have these questionable bench pieces, you don't know if they're going to start or not. It generally is relegated to some of the stars. You can find a couple of those. There's some good pick'em sites you can maybe jump on and find some shorting props for ancillary pieces, guys who are projected for some very high volatile type situations like a Marcus Morris, where You could play like 10 minutes. He could play 30. Neither would really surprise me, even in a starting spot. But before I give you my play here from the Clipper side, I'll at least talk about Scoot Henderson, who I think is going to be, I don't know, a thorn in the Charlotte Hornets side. I would have wanted him over Miller. Personal opinion. I don't know. Didn't even talk about Miller on the onset. I feel like I shouldn't talk about Miller. Might be like a... Oh. Does anybody want to talk about anything from Charlotte right now? Figure your shit out, guys. But anyway, I am very much looking at Scoot Henderson as a guy playing along Simons. That's going to at least be fun to watch. Now, Matisse Thybulle, likely starter. Jeremy Grant's still there. And DeAndre Ayton, how does he fit into this basketball team? They also have an interesting roster sitting behind it. Shaedon Sharpe, Malcolm Brogdon, coming off of injury during the tail end of last season. Not reading too much into his playoff performance there with the Celtics at the tail end because he was really dinged up. And Robert Williams off the injury report entirely. That's exciting to see from Time Lord. Going to be seeing some very limited run for him because there's no way him and Ayton can share a floor together. It doesn't even make sense logically. This is not an Al Horford situation where you can be in tandem with the two. Al Horford could play with anybody and make it work to some capacity. But I am looking here at the Clippers side. What is this number here on Russell Westbrook? I understand that he thinks he's the best player on the floor all the time, but Kawhi back, 16.5 points. I understand there's not a lot of defense being provided by that of Scoot. There's not going to be a lot of defense provided by Anthony Simons, even though he's longer than people give him credit for. Just a gangly individual. And Matisse Thybulle, he's going to be in full duty on Paul George or Kawhi Leonard. Not really sure exactly the approach they take. Again, it's positionless basketball. It's not a one-on-one thing predicting matchups. If you hear people say stuff like that now, get a little terrified. Just throwing a warning to everybody watching the videos here on the YouTubes. There are certain matchups, centers, you can basically pit together against each other. That makes sense. But the pick and roll has changed that complexion entirely. If I want to switch and get the defensive matchups that I want, I'm going to switch and I'm going to take advantage of the worst defensive player on the floor in a lot of situations. Now, during the regular season, doesn't get amped up nearly as much as what it does really matters come postseason time, which is why sometimes Michael Porter Jr. taken off the floor. Sometimes he's there. Depends if he's knocking down shots, doing the other things. But I am looking at 16.5 points. Is too many for Russell Westbrook. Like the under. Last play of the day. Bam. Thank you, ma'am. Under an hour. Thank God. And that does it for the second edition of Lindy's Leans, Likes, and Locks in the NBA streets. Head to that video description box below. Let me know your favorite plays here on Wednesday's massive 12-game slate. Going to be a lot of things getting updated. Go over to Lindy's Leans, Likes, and Lindy's Locks update over on X. Go follow me at Eric Lindquist. I'm going to have a long video tomorrow afternoon breaking everything down. If you want to come talk a little bit of fantasy, I'll be over on the Stochastic YouTube channel doing Live Before Lock with Greg Ehrenberg, somebody you know and love here over at the Odd Shopper channel as well. So check that out. Thank you to producer Jacob here for hanging out. Thank you to Bet365. Check them out. If you're in one of the 6 states that I talked about earlier, Kentucky, Virginia, Iowa, Colorado, New Jersey, and Ohio. There we go. Off memory. I get a gold star. Only if you're 21 and over, 18 and over in Kentucky. And if you have a gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. Only 2 games on Thursday. We put in a ton of work here today. I hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully it wasn't too long-winded for everybody. But again, trying to give you the best information I can. Going to be more long-winded at the beginning of the season as things start to iron out. But a lot will be revealed to us tomorrow. Going to be taking notes. I would take notes yourself. Get yourself ready to rock. This is going to be an NBA season to remember. Until next time, friends, I'm Eric Lindquist. Best of luck in the NBA streets on Wednesday.